And I feel like a lot of my friends had this significant experience at the mall when, a creepy mid 30s guy, probably wearing khakis and a gross button down with stained pit stains, comes up to them while their mom is huffing candles in Anthropologie. And they were just going to go to Limited 2 just to browse. Your mom says, "You cannot buy anything. You are just browsing." She's literally getting high in Anthropologie.
Wait, it's not that deep.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Not That Deep. I'm so excited to be recording because I'm not in my typical studio. I am actually in my room, my dungeon, my humble dungeon abode, and I have an interface which is helping me connect my microphone to my computer. And this is something that I literally went to college for. I studied multimedia journalism. So half of my degree was setting up cameras, setting up microphones, taking down cameras, taking down tripods, doing this bitch work that you would think that once it came to the real world, I would be amazing at it. But similar to everything I learned in fourth grade, I am forgetting everything that I learned in college besides how to order a Long Island iced tea properly. And what's so funny is I had gotten this. I'm like, what's so funny is it's not that funny. I had gotten this podcast recording equipment maybe 3 years ago. There are these two very talented sisters from my hometown. And I had asked one of them for help in terms of podcast equipment because it was during COVID and I wanted to, get a head start on this whole thing. I wanted to be the first person with a podcast. Screw you, Bachelor franchise. And she had me get this little red box which connects the microphone to your computer. And it just, I spent probably $200 on it. I remember a vendor from work had sent us a gift card to Amazon. And that's what I got. I ordered myself a little red box, calling it that because it's just easier than calling it an interface. And I think that when I say the word interface, I think I'm pretending to be someone I'm not. So I have this interface and I never use it. It sits and collects dust as any interface should do. And now that I'm back podcasting and I have this amazing studio that I use, I wanted to be able to do the podcast wherever I went. So my family was at the beach this past weekend. And of course, that interface that I had got, the first one, the one that collected dust, that ended up not working anymore. Poor thing. Turns out if you don't use it, it breaks. Say that to my brain. So I got a new interface because that one, the one I had, could only fit one microphone. Well, I'm all about getting deep with my guests, and guests need a microphone too, because even though I don't let my guests talk, I think that they should still have have an outlet to talk if they so choose to, if I so choose to include them in conversation and dialogue when I am interviewing them. And so I got an interface that now can access two microphones. And that's what I'm using right now. The effort that I had to put into this past weekend while I was down the shore to actually get the microphone to work with the interface was so upsetting. I think if you sent it to my multimedia journalism teacher, she would revoke my degree. And I would not fight her on that because honestly, it hasn't gotten me anywhere anyways. But my major also was so silly because all of the athletes did my major. You ever look around and you're trying to think of what everyone has in common? And there really isn't anything common, but some people are taking the easy way out to get a degree from Virginia Tech. And then some people are putting their whole hussy into this major and it's actually not getting them anywhere. I think with our entire major, there were probably 50 people three of them are actual reporters, and then the rest of us are probably figuring out how to use a 2 microphone interface in the year of 2024, or our athletes. Like, or some people, there's a Venn diagram of athletes and people using an interface. That would be myself when I decide to go on a run. I'm kind of in that sweet spot. And so having this major was funny because it wasn't really my passion and I wasn't good at it, but I learned how to use these technologies, and I would be walking around campus with a huge camera or a huge tripod bag, and I would have to stand on the street and interview people. I was really doing man on the street interviews before that guy on Instagram was doing them. You know, that guy on Instagram who will be in the West Village and only approaches hot people and is like, hey, what do you do for a living? Like, I want someone to ask me that. And I know that no one ever is going to ask me. But I think you just have to walk around looking as if you don't want anyone to talk to you while also looking super hot. I think that is the recipe to get stopped on the street, because I was walking in Washington Square Park. I feel like I just made that one syllable. Washington. I was walking in Washington Square Park. Washington Square Park. And there was a girl right behind me. And I was walking and I saw these two guys with the camera and the tripod and the microphone, and like, they're probably 23. They could learn a lot from an old soul such as myself. And then I see them look into my goddamn soul and then look past me and then ask the girl behind her, hey, do you have a second for an interview? It took everything in me not to be like, excuse me, I think you have the wrong girl. It's me you're looking for. Because then the girl didn't even want to do the interview. And something I can't relate to is someone like that. I can't imagine being asked to be on film and saying no. Unless it's porn, or unless it's those people in the mall that are like, hey, you should be a model. That's another thing. I kind of want to make a stand-up bit about that. No one ever asked me at the mall to model as a child. And I feel like a lot of my friends had this significant experience at the mall when, you know, a creepy mid-30s guy, probably wearing khakis and a gross button down with stained pit stains, comes up to them while their mom is huffing candles in Anthropologie. And they were just going to go to Limited 2 just to browse. Your mom says, you cannot buy anything. You are just browsing. She's literally getting high in Anthropologie. Sale section only, obviously. And you're walking. Again, this is not an experience that I've had before, but this is how I imagine it would go. You're walking, and this creepo with some flyers on a clipboard and a pen comes up to you and is like, hey, little girl, have you ever been told you're a model? And then that little girl would then be like, yeah, because he's not really recruiting the unworthy. And then she signs some big deal. And then all of a sudden, the mom signs the house away because she's so thirsty for fame. And then the house is in foreclosure. And then the parents get divorced. And then the girl actually turns ugly because she's so sick to her stomach of what this one choice has done to her parents. And I kind of skipped a step where I didn't have to do that and my parents still got divorced. But I just know that if I had done that and if I had been approached by a creepy middle-aged man, I probably would have caused mass destruction to a lot of people. Like, I probably would have been quick to give out my social security number because my mom had me memorize that from a little lad. I had that shit like 8675309. I had my social security number memorized to the tune of a song. I'm not going to say which song because that could actually give it away. But if he came up to me and simply told me I was a model or questioned if anyone had ever seen my model-like tendencies or looks, I probably would have given that shit. I probably would have sung like a little bird. But if only those guys on the street would know that I would give them incredibly salacious information. But I'm just waiting for the time I'm stopped And I always don't know if they're planned, because I think with like the 23-year-olds who are fully pursuing this, whether it's to get TikTok famous or whatever it may be, I think that is pretty authentic, where they just go up to you on the street and then whoever says yes, they'll take, even though they don't take people who look super desperate, aka me. But then there's the guys on Instagram or TikTok who are actually the famous ones, and then all of a sudden are like, hey, Jennifer Aniston, funny running into you here. And it's like, there's no way that you just ran into her, because I've lived here for 3 years and I've never run into her. And also, like, she would never say yes to an interview. Like, this has to be a PR stunt. And I don't believe it if you say it's not. I just don't. But so I fully would be asking man on the street interviews in college with my tripod, with my camera, and then uploading it, editing it. And it was so intense and delicious, the work that I would put into it. And then I ended up working in advertising after college. And I love advertising so much, but I'm super happy that somehow, I mean, it's like the invisible string theory, right? That's more so for love, connections, and how we all end up, or invisible string. It's like when you meet someone and then you end up finding out like y'all were in preschool together, which, let me tell you something. I have seen so many TikToks about the invisible string theory that I don't think I am cool as a cucumber enough for the invisible string theory to ever work on me. Because people will be like, I just met my boyfriend on Hinge, and after the 5th date, we realized that we were in the same first grade class together. I don't know if my brain is wired so differently from everybody else's, but I could name you every single person in my first grade class, including what they wore on the first day. You couldn't get anything past me. Like, what do you mean you meet this guy on Hinge? You don't stalk his entire life. You don't find out where he was on January 6th. You're telling me that after not the first, not the second, not the third, not the fourth, on the 5th date, you're like, anyways, where'd you go to elementary school? Bitch, I'm going into date 1 knowing who your first grade teacher was. There is no essence of surprise with me. What do you mean you had no idea? And then it's a photo of them in their first grade class, and they're like holding hands. And it's like, I had no idea. The invisible string theory is so real. And it's like, the invisible string theory is real, but you're actually a fucking idiot. What do you mean? Like, I could meet someone on Hinge. Okay, this is a true example. I matched with my neighbor on Hinge. This guy has probably passed me a million times, has no idea who I am, has no idea he's my neighbor. We're messaging back and forth. Well, actually, I'm messaging him, but he hasn't messaged me back. But my friends were like, Dana, what are you going to do if he's like, I think I've seen you before? And it's like, I know what I'm going to do, because that's not going to happen, because I'm going to have to act dumb. And then this is playing up in my head, of course, but then on the 5th date, because I don't sleep on the first 4, on the 5th date, he's going to ask me, very serious questions such as, Dana, where do you live? And I'm going to have to act as if I am telling him where I live out of the blue. And then in response to me telling him, he is genuinely going to be shocked when I tell him where I live, because that's where he lives and he has no idea. So to him, the invisible string theory is so real. This is all hypothetical, of course. In his head, he's like, oh my God, this is all banter that's going to happen behind my back, but I will find out once I get to know him better. He's telling his friends, his great aunt, you guys will not believe this. I went on 5 dates with this girl, and guess what? We have lived in the same building for the last 3 years. And they're all going to respond, wow, the invisible string always is connected. Meanwhile, I'm over here. I've been knowing about this guy And I'm just supposed to pretend like I don't? Like, I think the invisible string theory is for idiots. I think it's honestly a shame that I'm having this conversation by myself because, like, I feel like I have a laugh stuck in my throat because this is actually such a funny concept. Like, like specifically, or like look up the invisible string theory on TikTok on anything. People will be like, "Oh my God, I was dating this guy and it turns out he's my cousin." And it's like the invisible string theory, it's just so real. And I think that there are those connections and there are those things where it's like, wow, we've met each other in a past life, or we've been at the same function together, but we never talked to each other. But I just think saying like, or let's say I met someone that went to Virginia Tech and then we met on Hinge, or we met at like a hokey meetup, which you would never catch me at in 2024, maybe in 2022, definitely in 2021. But if I meet someone from Virginia Tech and like our first interaction is like, "Oh, no way, you went to Tech," that is not an invisible string. That is a fun coincidence. I think people are getting invisible string and coincidence mixed up. And I'm here for it, but only if we are calling the person stupid. And I think that is going to be made into a really funny stand-up bit because it's also true. It's so true. I can't stress this enough. The one that I saw on TikTok was my boyfriend and I were in the same preschool class. Again, maybe they're just not Jewish either. I think maybe let's give them that benefit of the doubt. I didn't inquire about their religious origin or their ethnicities. Are they Ashkenazi? Are they Hungarian? Are they Polish? Maybe they're Irish. Maybe they're Catholic, because this would never fly with a Jew. Okay. Because the second I go out with a guy, my mom is asking me, and I really can't lie. I think people think I lie a lot. I just exaggerate. I don't lie. If my mom asks me who I'm dating, I will tell her first, last name. She will go in. And if I tell her a name that is remotely familiar to her, she's going to be able to know why. And she's going to know, oh my God, I love his mother. She is so sweet. Did you know that he has an older brother who's very handsome? He has a younger sister who actually was going to go to Virginia Tech but ended up going to Penn State. He has an older sister. I mean, this guy has a family of 30, I guess. But my mom is going to hear the name and know who that is. Like, in these stories, when people are, we went to high school together. I could name everyone in my graduating class. This isn't something I'm proud of, but it's a fact. Like, and I can't lie. So if I'm on a date with someone, let's say it's a blind date. That's the best I can get in this scenario. I'm going on a blind date and I see him and I know we went to high school together, but like he somehow has no idea, perhaps because I had the biggest glow up ever, hypothetically. I see him. I physically cannot have the first words out of my mouth be, "We went to high school together." I wish I could be mysterious. I wish I could carry a charisma that people wonder about. I wish that I had what it took to have a little flair in me, but I don't. And so who's the real criminal here? Isn't it someone pretending like they don't know who's sitting across from them? And then what do? Organically bring up like, "Oh, where'd you go to high school?" I'm asking that anyways. If someone asks me that and then I tell them and then they're like, "No way, who'd you have for senior year English?" And then I say, "I had such a mean teacher for senior year," but that's besides the point. He like low-key bullied me but was hot. And I feel like he was an industry plant so that us ladies could get used to being mistreated by hot older men. And I think they did their job. It was like when you got your schedule, you're like, "Please get the hot one. Please get the hot one." And then you got the ugly one and you're like, "Fuck. can I switch? That's why you have to be close with your guidance counselor so that they could like switch the teachers on you. Like I got my lunch switched simply because I would like go yap with my guidance counselor. Like I wasn't the girl like eating lunch with my guidance counselor because I was like mentally ill, at least not on the forefront. I was the one eating lunch with my guidance counselor to like yap so hard, gossip so hard. Like I honestly entertained her so much, and she couldn't have even gotten me into a better college. Like she couldn't have forged my way into Michigan after all that I did for her. The audacity. But yeah, so invisible string, that ain't it. I think that there's a really funny concept that keeps coming up, and it's that like people will say not people will say, it's science that women's frontal lobes develop before men's, and the frontal lobe is cognitive decisions. That's like the big one. But then there's also like other ones that are equally as important, like behavior and emotions, or memory, or problem solving, or future planning, or personality. And like all these things just make so much sense why like most men that we're dealing with right now, not my English teacher, like their frontal lobes are barely crowning. And that's a saying that I want to be pretty consistent in life, is like, you're not the problem. His frontal lobe has not even crowned yet. And crowning is when like you could see the head of the baby when a woman's giving birth. And that frontal lobe is not even in the question right now. And I think that that just needs to be something that we remember moving forward. Definitely think that that should be my I digress, because holy fuck, I can digress. This episode was completely unexpected. Almost like I was asked to do a man on the street interview. I just had no idea it was coming. No, but I had nothing to say, but I also had everything to say. And I think I got a new stand-up bit out of it, which is always exciting. And I'm going to head to an open mic later. And then I have Backgammon Club. So with that, I want you to have an amazing day, an amazing week, an amazing year, whenever you're listening to this. And continue to stay tuned and keep listening. And I hope I made you laugh today. Bye-bye.